So you take a break from MMA to focus again on your amateur wrestling career. Why did you think you needed to make that move in 2000 to maybe go back into that?
It's just a goal that I hadn't achieved. I set out to be an Olympian and to win a medal at the Olympics. I was getting up there in age. Young guys like Garrett Lowney were coming onto the scene and doing very, very well, both nationally and internationally. At some point, push comes to shove. You gotta make a decision. That was going to be my last opportunity, my last quadrennium, if you will, to chase finally achieving making that Olympic team and standing on that podium, which is a big deal. And Kurt can attest to that. What a big part of his life that was, and it was a big part of my life too. It's just one of those goals I never accomplished.
Yeah, I was able to put closure to that because I did win the gold medal, and that's what I set out to do. So I completely understand, Randy. I would have done the same thing as you. And I'm not saying I would have accomplished everything you accomplished, but I would have probably done the same thing as you. I'd have continued to keep trying.
Yeah, it's one of those things you just can't let go of. Certainly not easily.
Yeah. Well, you return to rings and go 2-0 before the UFC comes back to you and offers you a shot at the heavyweight title.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get past what happened previously in the UFC, and why did you want to return?
Well, like I said, that all happened in 2000. I hung up my boots in Dallas at those final trials. So now what? Now I can go back to just pursuing being a professional athlete and a fighter. They were having some trouble handling Kevin Randleman at that time. Kevin was a pretty boisterous personality.
He was, yeah.
Amazingly talented guy, but a pretty boisterous person for sure. And he was giving him some trouble. He was, they were, let's just say they weren't very happy with the way things were going with Kevin. They reached out to me after our disagreement over the contract. They offered me a contract and a shot at the heavyweight championship. So I don't know anybody who's not going to jump on that opportunity.
Yeah.
To go from literally being on the outs, with the company and then the company reaching out and saying, hey, we'd really like you to come back and fight for the heavyweight title. I said, okay, I'm happy to come back and fight for the title against Kevin, but I've already done the first leg of this tournament with rings. The finals are in February. You have to allow me to follow through and finish that tournament and go to the finals. They agreed to that. They said, okay, no problem. You can go finish the tournament in February in Japan, but we want you to fight in October against Kevin Randleman in Atlantic City at Boardwalk Hall. And I said, okay, get it done. And I knew that was going to be a tough fight. I knew anytime I faced another guy with the wrestling credentials that Kevin had, it was going to be a tougher fight. I relied heavily on my wrestling background and experience to put guys that didn't have that experience in bad places, in bad positions, and wear them out. That was going to be very difficult against a guy like Kevin. He was as explosive and talented as any guy that we've.
The best athletes I've ever seen wrestle. Yeah,
absolutely. So I knew it had the potential to be a dangerous fight and a tough fight. But I'd been spending a lot of my time working on jiu-jitsu and learning how to wrestle off my back and for fear that at some point I'm going to run into somebody that can take me down. Right. And sure enough, first and second round, Kevin took me down. But I had done enough and spent enough time there. I almost armbarred him. I was able to protect myself and not sustain any damage. And then in the third round, I took Kevin down. Kevin did the dying cockroach. The feet and arms went straight up in the air. I climbed right to mount and from mount was able to finish the fight. So there was a disparaging difference in the homework and time I'd spent kind of learning all this other stuff. And it was apparent that Kevin, hadn't really been spending any time learning any of these other skills. He was who he was.
Yes. Yeah, that was definitely Kevin. Yes.